Hello, and welcome to today's School Finance Training Edition, Year-End Activities, Closing Out the Year, and Thinking About Next Year. I'm Monica Paz, Account Analyst Lead for the School Finance Operations team. Let's get started. In this presentation, we will be reviewing contact information, deadlines, AzEDS reports, and review the 915 process. If you need to contact School Finance, you can contact us at the main number listed here, or you can email each one of the units within School Finance. If you call the School Finance main line, you will hear the prompts for the different divisions within School Finance. To reach an account analyst, you would want to choose option 3, and then option 1 if you're calling about AZEDS data and integrity. The School Finance team often sends out email communications. The contact information that we receive is based off of the contact worksheet from the budgets forms that is submitted by your business manager or CFO. As you see here on the second page of the budget worksheet, you will see a district or charter contact information tab. If you are not listed on this worksheet, please talk to your business manager about being listed on this form. This is a temporary way to maintain and manage contact information. In the future, we will have a system for the agency to use to manage this. If you are the submitter, we ask that you do not alter the lines within the worksheet. If you have additional contacts that you would like to add, please email the SF Budgets team to determine how to best update contact information. School Finance Deadlines. On the School Finance page via azed.gov/finance, you'll see now that the data capture dates or the data capture deadlines have been posted for both fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21. If you click on the link for the fiscal year 2020 deadlines, you'll see the monthly processing payment schedule as well as a link to a thumbnail for a calendar. You will also see at the very last line there that fiscal year 2020 year-end recalculation schedule ends on July 15th. That means that you can continue to submit AZEDS data for fiscal year 2020 up until July 15th of 2020. I'd like to talk about end-of-year questions that you should be asking yourself. At the end of the year, you should know, are all of your students in AZEDS? Do you have integrity errors for those students? Are you getting funded for the students that you are eligible for? And did you submit the appropriate year-end status codes at the end of the year? Let's talk about the AZEDS reports that can help you answer some of those questions. Are all of your students in AZEDS? One way to validate that all of your students have landed in AZEDS is to utilize the Stud 10 report. You can compare the list from your Stud 10 to your SIS to validate that all of the students that you've had for the year have landed within AZEDS. In AZEDS, when you generate the Stud 10 report, you'd want to pull up the School Enrollment Information report. The very last page, and this is a quick check, shows an unduplicated student amount. If this matches what you have in your SIS, you'll know that the students have landed in AZEDS as you expected. At the end of the year, before you roll over your system, you definitely want to make sure that you're pulling up the Intake 15 report. And you also want to validate that you've cleared all membership integrity errors so that you make sure that you get paid the proper ADM for each one of the students that have been submitted into AZEDS. Validating that the students are clear of integrity errors will ensure that you're getting funded for each one of your eligible students. Assuming that the student has membership within the first 100 days of your instructional calendar, is eligible for basic state aid, has a full-time enrollment value of greater than 0, and obviously meets the age requirements defined in statute. The ADM 15 will show you the detail of each student that is generating a fundable and non-fundable interval for regular ADM, SPED ADM, and ELL ADM. The ADM 15 is a very robust report and can only be viewed in CSV, which then can be sent into an Excel form. In that Excel form, you want to make sure that if you're validating regular ADM, that you are filtering the columns listed within the ADM 15 and summing the proper columns. In this example, I'm looking at regular ADM. In column B, I'm going to filter for ADM type, the correct data capture date. I want only fundable intervals, and I want to ensure that I am summing the limited membership days. Summing the column at the end of limited membership days and dividing by 100 will get me the ADM value that is pushed for payments every month. In the ADM 15 report, we want to make sure that we are filtering for the correct ADM type that we are reconciling for. In this example, we are reconciling for regular ADM. So we want to make sure that we are filtering column B for regular ADM type, and we are only looking at fundable students before we can sum the limited membership days column. Once you have filtered for regular ADM and fundable students and sum limited membership days, you will see that that value is the same value that is pushed to the summary report of your ADM, which is known as the ADM 20 report. Once a month after data capture day, that value that you see on the ADM 20 is pushed to the ADMS 46-1 report for the 100th day value. That very same number that you summed for regular ADM students that are fundable, you will see pushed to the ADM 46-1 the day after the data capture days that are posted on the school finance page. The summarized student count reports can be found on the school finance homepage. You will see the 46-1 for regular ADM students, the ELL 28-1 for ELL students that are generating ADM, and the SPED 28 for students that are generating SPED ADM. At the end of the year, your students require what's called a year-end status code. These year-end status codes are defined by the accountability department. If you have questions or aren't sure which year-end status code to use, you can read the Graduation Dropout and Persistence Rate Technical Manual at the link provided here. For current year, you should have seen an uptick in Integrity Rule 21001. This rule is a reminder to submit the year-end status code that was activated as of May 1st for fiscal year 20. In previous years, we've seen an uptick in Integrity Code 10200, specifically stating that a student who has received a high school diploma may not enroll in a public school. This is because in previous years, an LEA mistakenly recorded a year-end status code of G for graduated for a grade other than 12. This integrity error can impact current year funding and previous and next year's funding. If you have questions about this code or have been impacted by this code, you can reach the accountability department for questions. This slide demonstrates how the deadlines for fiscal year 20 and 21 cross over in June and July. On May 31st, if you plan on being a 200-day calendar LEA, you will need to submit your application by the end of May. The API for fiscal year 21 to receive transactions begins on June 1st. You can start submitting data for fiscal year 21 on June 1st. For charter schools, the charter estimated counts window is open on June 15th to be considered for your first fiscal year 21 payment in August. We have posted additional information and deadlines on the charter estimated counts memos. Please visit the memos section on the school finance homepage for more information. In July, on July 15th, the API for fiscal year 20 closes. You can no longer submit fiscal year 20 transactions after July 15th. Please be aware of all of the due dates in these summer months that impact both fiscal years. Requesting a 915. A 915 refers to Title 15-915 in Arizona Revised Statute. This allows for LEAs to correct their student data for up to 3 previous fiscal years. School Finance has posted guidance on what is required for this request. A 915 can be requested for student data, transportation, and budget revisions. Before requesting a 915, please read through the posted guidance. Understand that modifying student data can impact many business units within ADE, as well as other LEAs, as well as your basic state aid funding. Reconciling student data against your SIS, such as your Stud 10 and your ADM 15, can impact your need to request a 915. Understanding year-end codes and making sure that you clean in your integrity report will all ensure that you don't need to request a 915. You can always reach out to the SF Analyst team for assistance if you have questions about your student data. Before we dive further into the 915 process, I want to revisit the current year data process. If you are not new to my presentations, you've seen this illustration before. If you are new here, I will very quickly review the process. The man in blue represents you and the LEA and the SIS vendor that you have chosen to submit data. Data flows through the API 24/7, and the data is processed through integrity and ACE roles every single night. A report is generated as a result of each process. Once a month, the school finance team completes data push, and your payments reports are generated. The next slide will demonstrate what happens with your data outside of this process and how other units within ADE are using your data. If we zoom out of the process that we are used to viewing, we will see that all sorts of stuff is happening to the data that you have submitted. Let's start up at the top, EOS, or Education Organization Directory. This is a system that we use to maintain the information about entities, districts and charters and AOIs, but also private day schools, residential treatment centers, health and nutrition sites, what type of grades you serve, your address information, what services you are approved for, and every other directory detail that you can imagine is stored here in EOS. The information from EOS is then copied over to ODS, or the Operational Data Store. This is a server that all departments within ADE can access for information for LEAs and student data to meet their reporting needs. The LEA database stores all of the data about an LEA and tags the data that is sent from you and your SIS. ODS and LEA database talk back and forth to each other every single night. The LEA database then sends all of the data that is received from you and sends it over to the AZEDS servers to process and generate the reports that you are used to seeing. AZEDS then sends the data to Integrity to run through, as well as the ACE server for ADM calculations. Both Integrity and ACE talk to the AZEDS server to generate results-based reports. When you request a 915, the data flows through the same servers. The biggest difference is that it is on a year-specific API. It is only open when the window is open as a result of requesting a 915. If you are changing the student data as a result of a 915, then you are not only impacting your own student data, but you are also impacting other LEAs that may have that student currently enrolled. You are also impacting data that other departments are using. For example, if you changed a student membership information, an assessments unit has already pulled from the ODS for their final reports for that year, and you're changing that student's data, you may not have only impacted your data, you may have also potentially impacted the student's assessment information as well as the information that assessments has already pulled. So please be careful when you're requesting a 915 and understand that the data that you are sending does impact other departments and other LEAs. Now that you understand how your data flows through the system and is used by other departments within ADE, you can now understand how modifying student data has a bigger impact than just you. The process itself of a 915 is much easier than it is of the days of SACE, but it is a lot more technical. Let's talk about the technical part of the 915. In addition to the letter that is required when requesting a 915, you also have to provide what is called a CSV file, which outlines exactly what you plan on changing. The details of what is required is outlined in the Technical Impact and File Specifications document. I know that sounds a little scary and overly technical, but give me a moment to break down each column so that you can understand what is required. In the first column, you need to include the fiscal year that you are changing. You can only do one fiscal year per CSV. The second column is the student state ID for the student that you are revising. The third column is the school ID or entity ID for the school site that the student attended. The fourth and fifth column are related. It refers to the name of the table that the student data lives in AZEDS. AZEDS is a database. The database is made up of a series of tables. We refer to those as resource names. The data that you can change in a 915 is the data that is stored in these resources. These resources changed from fiscal year 17 and fiscal year 18. In fiscal year 18 and 19, the resource names remain the same. The names of these resources or tables are posted in the AZEDS Use Case. The use case is simply a map of what the tables are and what data belongs on those tables. Each year has its own use case document, as some of the names of the resources may have changed. If we were to open the use case or map of AZEDS, we can see the names of all of the tables or resources. Let's say, for example, that we needed to update a student's withdrawal code. We can see that the withdrawal codes are stored in the resource of Student School Associations. I'd like to think of this as the book that I am looking for. The property locator is the chapter within that book where the information is stored within that resource table. You can see that all of the detail in AZEDS and how it's organized and mapped in each use case. On the last columns of the CSV file, you will need to indicate the old value as well as the new value that you are setting. In this example, I am changing a W4 code to a W1 for a student in fiscal year 19. Some SIS vendors have a tool to help you create the CSV file. Please contact your SIS vendor to see if they can assist you with this. Additional assistance. I hope that today's video helped you to understand the data deadlines, the importance of reconciling your data, and how to request a 915. If you have additional questions, please consider emailing the SF Analyst team or stay up to date on topics that impact you on our website at az.gov/finance. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time.